Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today I am real excited to do the hashtag Good Mood Decks. This tag has been going around the tarot YouTube sphere for I think roughly a month now or so, and I'm so excited to finally be able to get the chance to jump into it because I have a lot of decks that are good mood decks for me and it's always fun to show them. The VR to this, like if you're having a bad day, just do a search for the hashtag good mood decks and you are guaranteed to get a little pick me up for your day. So I have a pile of decks because as we all do, right? But I did try to keep the decks that I selected to be decks that just kind of make me happy. I tried not to get too far into the like hug decks or comfort decks or things like that because that is a little bit of a different vibe. So I tried to really just hone in on the decks that like legit bring a smile to my face. So those are the ones that we're going to be taking a look at today. So we're going to start with the Housewives Tarot, clearly because that's the one on the table. This is one of the few decks that I actually keep in its original packaging because it sits on my shelf and because it looks like a recipe box, right? And I put this deck back in order every time after I use it. So like it's a labor of love kind of in that sense, but I just love the way this deck is put together with the little recipe cards. And we'll take a look at just the major arcana here. This deck is just like I mean, clearly you can see it's got some wear and tear on it. I probably should have put it in my disheveled decks tag because it's actually a deck that I've had for a really long time. I think it was the third or fourth deck I ever purchased. I love it. It makes me smile. It's so like retro vintage, like, I don't know. It's like, it's funny, right? Me trying to come up with words today, clearly not a thing, but like every single image in this deck makes me smile. It makes me laugh. This is definitely a deck that I pull out if I'm already in a good mood, or if I'm kind of not in a good mood and I want to shift that energy around. This is one of the decks that I'll grab for this. I mean, there's some like super inappropriate things in here. It just is what it is. But it's very on brand for its kind of theme, right? I mean, this devil with the devil's food cake is just makes me laugh. The Jello Tower. It's just, yeah, it's funny. How many times can I say it's just in one video? Anyway, yeah, this is definitely one of the decks that I would consider like my oldest good mood deck. I love the Kingdom backs too, just fantastic. Because it's like the deck that I've had the longest that I would consider, you know, in this good moods category. Like I said, I always put it back in its box and it goes back in order whenever I work with it. And then it sits on my shelf like this so I can look at it and enjoy it all the time. So the next deck that I want to share with you is the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot. And this is probably going to be no surprise to anybody who's like watched any of my videos during the summer months. I adore the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot. And this is one of those decks that just is such a good mood for me. I love the energy of it. It's very playful, it's very fun, and it always brings a smile to my face whenever I get this deck out. It just has such a great fun kind of day at the beach with a little bit of that, you know, magical bent to it with the mermaids. And yeah, it's just like, it's a whole mood. This deck is a whole mood, which is what we're talking about. Good moods, right? It's definitely one that I pull out every summer. I look forward to using it every summer. It's one of those decks that sometimes I just pull it out when I'm just feeling like, yeah, I need a little pick-me-up. So I think it's a perfect deck for this particular tag because it's definitely a pick-me-up deck. It's a deck that always makes me feel, you know, makes me feel in a good, warm, sunshiny place whenever I work with it. So the next good mood deck for me is also by Dame Darcy, and this is the Queen Alice Tarot. This deck is such a treat. I love working with this deck. I've done like I've done actual like deep work with this deck as well. I have done some journaling and some work with it alongside the actual Alice stories, which has been fantastic. But for me, this deck is also very much a good mood. It's playful, it's fun, it's quirky. I do love how we see reflected through this deck, like Alice kind of growing up. Sometimes she's depicted as a little girl, and sometimes she's depicted a little bit older and a little bit more sort of mature situations, like we see here in this Temperance. I mean, she looks like she's probably in her, late teens, early 20s. I'm old, so I'm terrible at judging age, same here. But then on the Sun card, she's very like childlike. So yeah, it's fun, it's playful. I do get really great readings with it though. So it doesn't like lack substance either, which is always fantastic. I wouldn't say that really any of my good mood decks lack any substance. I realized when kind of drawing out the decks that I wanted to put into this video, into this collection, I don't really have any good mood oracle decks besides a new one that I just got in. Most of my oracle decks are pretty in alignment with other energies because I use them for other specific purposes. I don't have any that I would just consider and pull one just because, I want a good mood card, or because I'm in a bad mood and want to shift that energy around. I'll always go to the tarot first for that. So I think it's really interesting to see how that has played out in my deck selections here. Really old one here is the Crystal Tarot, which is a deck that I have heavily modified. I like trimmed it all kinds of down. It is a fairly old deck in my collection, and this to me is the colors in this deck. It makes me so happy. It's also a deck that has gone on vacation with me like for years. It goes on vacation with me all the time. And not so much since the pandemic, because we haven't gone on vacation near as much, but pre-pandemic, this deck, anytime we left on vacation, this deck was always in my bag because it's very summery and bright and fun, and I love the colors. Again, it's another Pip style deck. It has follows kind of Eude Picard minors, which again, makes me happy. Very numerological, very elemental. And I think it's just gorgeous. But look at this. This is like sunshine, like summer in my hand. And I guess that's I kind of associate, summer with that good mood energy, even though I don't really like summer. It's my least favorite season. But it is bright and sunshiny, and like everybody else is like usually in good moods and happy, while me, I'm over here like, can it be fall already? I'm ready for fall. But this deck has so many good memories tied into it, and I think that's a big part of it. It is the color palette, it is the elemental numerological association of the deck itself, but it is very much also because it's a deck that has been on many wonderful family adventures, and so I have all of those memories kind of tied up in it. So it's a good mood for me in that way. So another deck that kind of feels a little bit, again, like a summery deck is the Tarot of the Divine, and this for me is also a good mood deck, kind of associated with the feelings and the memories that this deck kind of holds. Not in terms of like me actually using the deck, because I haven't really had it that long and I haven't done a ton of work with it. But this deck makes me think about the stories that I used to read my kids when they were little. And so it has very much that kind of Six of Cups nostalgia energy there for me. I can see the stories that we read coming through this deck. It also kind of looks a little bit like the cartoons that my kids used to watch when they were younger. And so it's a deck of my kids. I don't even know how else to describe it, because it's like fairy tales, and it's a beautiful deck, and it reads really well. I haven't done a ton of work with it, but I have really enjoyed the work that I have done. But for me, it does very much tie in with that energy. And so, anything to do with my kiddos makes me happy. They're not little anymore by any stretch of the imagination. They're both adults now. But whenever I pick up this deck and whenever I look through it and see these images and see the story references that I recognize, I mean, it can take me back to my own childhood as well. but for me, it ties in more with my kiddos. So, and it kind of just, it makes me feel better. So this is one of those decks that it's a good mood because it makes me feel better, and not really in like a comfort deck or a hug deck kind of way. It's more about the feelings that I associate with the deck, and the fact that it reminds me of my kids. Hopefully that makes sense, but you know, that's why it's a good mood for me, because this is a deck that just embodies the time and the experience of being with my children when they are younger, and I adore it. Absolutely adore it for that. So another deck that just kind of makes me happy whenever I get it out is the Northern Animal Tarot. This is the first edition. I have modified mine. This is actually the first. I always say that it's the imperfect edition. I don't have the perfect edition to know the difference. The backs are different colors, but I don't like different shades, which I love actually, and I don't know if that's what makes it imperfect, but there's nothing wrong with this deck in my opinion. I did modify it. I re-rounded the corners and made them larger to soften it up, and then I edged it in this beautiful yellow. This is a deck, it's totally like anthropomorphized animals, and it just, I don't know. This deck just makes me happy whenever I look at it. I mean, look at this Hierophant. I love him. There's just something about these creatures. They're like so approachable and they're so friendly, and it just, yeah, it makes me feel good. It makes me happy whenever I look through it. This is another deck that, like, when I'm having a bad day, this is one of the decks that I pull out, because I'm just like, I need something cute. I need something to make me happy. And this deck never fails to deliver on that. Like all the decks that I've shown so far, like, it's not without substance either. So, I mean, that's fantastic. I can definitely get, you know, deep readings with this if I want or if I need. But it also is just a fantastic deck for just kind of having a happy moment with, and just kind of getting a reading that just is going to make me happy, and even just flipping through it makes me happy. So sometimes that's, you know, that's a cure for a bad mood too. Just pull out a deck that you really enjoy the artwork in, give it a flip through, and you know, hopefully by the end you'll be feeling better about life. So this is definitely a good mood for me. It's these creatures, these little characters that just feel so friendly and approachable. So a fairly new deck to my collection, and one that is like the epitome of this tag, is the Joie de Vivre Tarot, which I bought because I was literally having a bad day. I did not feel good. I was sick, and all I wanted was something that was gonna bring a little happiness into my day. So this is the deck that I bought. It's been on my list to like check out for a long time. I have the Paulina Tarot, which is one of my favorite decks. It has a totally different energy and mood than this one does. But this deck, these characters, like, they're just so cute and they're just so happy. And this is another one that, like, when I'm feeling a little like not in the greatest of moods, this is another deck that I can come and pull and just get a few cards from, get a little reading from, and it always makes me smile. This Queen of Swords is like one of my favorites. Like, she's got little skulls hanging from her skirt, and the look on her face is just like pure determination. That just makes me happy. It makes me smile. And again, that was kind of like the criteria I used when selecting my decks. Does it make me smile? Because if it does, then I probably included it. And because I have a fairly large collection, there's probably decks I missed too. But these were just kind of the first ones that came to mind when I was kind of looking through my decks going, which one of you make me smile? And definitely the Joie de Vivre is one. But it also is quite literally a deck to make me happy. Like, I wanted a deck that had this energy to it, and I didn't really have one. It is kind of a unique energy in my collection because, like I said, the Paulina isn't the same energy as this. It has a much more somber, more melancholy feel to it for me. It is a deck that I bought purposely to put me in a good mood because that's what I needed at the time. And it has not disappointed since then. I've used it quite a bit. Just whenever I just want a little, like, I just want a little bit of happiness. I just want to kind of connect with these little cute little creatures and spend some time kind of hanging out in their world. It's just a fun one. So the next deck is a deck that I really wasn't sure about when I first bought it because I haven't had the best of luck with decks from this creator. A lot of times they feel like they're a bit unapproachable for me. And I've had them all. But this one kind of caught my eye. It kind of makes me giggle. And so I felt like I had to include it. I have not had it that long. Like it just came into my collection not too long ago. Obviously it's the Tarot of the Curious Creatures. This deck is super weird. It's like, what is up with these like photorealistic animal heads on photorealistic people, right? It's not like anthropomorphized animals like we saw in like the Northern Animal. This is like the Northern Animal and the Housewives Tarot like got together and had a baby. And there's just something so weirdly wonderful about that. I was really, when this deck first kind of like hit the tarot sphere, I was like, oh no, that's not for me. That is a weird deck, and I don't like the animal people thing going on. Look at this Queen of Pentacles though. It does make me happy though. It makes me smile whenever I get this deck out. No matter what card hits the table, it makes me smile. And it doesn't matter if I'm like, you know, looking at the most harsh card in the tarot, it still makes me giggle in this deck. And it's just, I mean, look at that. It's weird. It's kind of creepy in a weird sort of way. Like this Tower card, totally bizarre and kind of creepy, but it's really funny. And it just, I don't know, it just really does make me laugh. It makes me happy, and I haven't worked with it very much. This and the next one that I'm going to show you are like the newest decks in my collection. And so I haven't really had a chance to work with it much, but I cannot deny that flipping through this deck, although I do love this card, this one kind of a little bit makes me go, aw, that's so cute. I do enjoy flipping through this deck, and whenever I do, it makes me smile. And again, that was my criteria: decks that bring a smile to my face. I don't know why that makes me laugh. It just does. To be completely honest, like, I mean, it probably has substance. I've never used it for a super serious reading. I just can't even imagine using this for a super serious reading unless I wanted to like look at the lighter side of the situation, like unless I was specifically looking to the tarot to provide me some guidance about where I could find the humor maybe in a hard situation. I feel like it would probably work really well for that, but I've kind of just pulled it out whenever I'm just like, mostly whenever I'm like in a good mood and I just want to play with a deck that reflects that good mood energy for me. That's kind of when I've been pulling this one out. Whereas some of them, it's like I pull them out because I'm in a bad mood and I want to get in a better mood. There's definitely a couple of those in here. But I feel like this one is like, I'm already in a good mood and I just want something to make it even better, because look at that Emperor. He makes me laugh. I'm just saying, this deck is funny, and it's totally Lisa's fault because I was like, no, I am not buying that deck. And then, like, it's not really Lisa's fault. I just watched her video repeatedly until I was kind of like, okay, I get where you're going with this, and I need to try it myself. And I'm kind of glad I did, because it kind of makes me happy. So the next deck that I have for you is the Mystic Martian Oracle, and it is the only Oracle deck that I've pulled out. I specifically bought this deck to go with the Desert Illuminations Tarot, which I've pre-ordered the next edition, which is supposed to come out this fall. And I specifically bought this to go with that because it's like all aliens, and the Suit of Pentacles in that deck is aliens. So like, I've legit looked at this deck many times since I saw it hit the Amazon pre-order or whatever. And I've looked at it many times going, yeah, I mean, it's funny and I like it, but like, would I actually use it? I didn't feel, up until this point, I didn't feel that I had anything that like pair with, or that I would have any real reason to reach for it, other than it does kind of make me happy. I mean, there is that, right? Like, check out this lime green. I did not do that. It came that way. And these backs, like, super trippy. I love it. Anyway, yeah, I pre-ordered the Desert Illuminations, and so then clearly I keep just flipping through this deck because it goes in order one way and then in order the other way. But I love these keywords. I love these images. It's like, I kind of dig alien stuff. Like it's just kind of a thing. Like I'm super into sci-fi. I'm such a nerd when it comes to that. You'll see that here in like real big in a moment. But I do love that aspect of it. And it is a deck, like it's so bright and colorful, and like it has crop circles, and it has like different alien associations. There's the Galactic Federation. I mean, I'm not like laughing at the deck, but the deck makes me laugh. And I love it for that. Like that's totally, it's vibe for me. It's totally a good mood thing that I'm just like, yeah, I see what you're doing there, but you're kind of making me giggle. Like this is like full on from like the Ancient Alien show, right? Like there's a Men in Black card. There's the big mantis. Here we have this one, the grays, the short grays. It's totally Stargate vibes for me, which it's like a fandom I totally love. So yeah, we're just gonna flip through the whole thing because like clearly it makes me happy, and it makes me smile. I'm like smiling through this whole video like an idiot, but it just, that's the whole point. These are good mood decks, and they definitely put me in a good mood. We're gonna wrap things up with a deck that, in all honesty, I've gone back and forth with on whether I am gonna ever show this on my channel, because this is a deck that I made. So it is a completely handmade tarot deck, like as in I made the images, I printed it at home, I laminated it at home, I cut it at home, and I created a tarot deck out of all of my favorite sci-fi, fantasy, TV shows, and movies. However, having said that, that means that like technically I don't own any of the images in this deck, right? So it's not for public use. It's just strictly for my own, personal use. And I've gone back and forth about whether or not my members have seen it. I've shown it on membership videos. I'll be perfectly honest about that because I shared the process with them. But when it comes to a good mood deck, I feel like if I didn't include this, I would be like, in a sense, being completely inauthentic about what a good mood deck is for me, because this is my ultimate good mood deck. I pull cards from this deck every single day. This deck is the deck that never fails to make me happy. It's a super solid reader too, like super shiny. This deck is everything that I like cardstock wise that I hate. It's plasticky, it's huge, it's fluffy, it's slippery. Because I had to make it at home, right? I had to like, it's laminated and it's a handmade deck, like a true handmade deck. All the images I made on the computer, and I use photos from the shows as a starting point. But I'm gonna be perfectly honest, this is my absolute most good mood deck. It is the deck that of every deck I own, this deck like literally makes me the happiest. Not only because I made it, but because it ties into like 20 some odd years or more, like going back clear to the 80s. So yeah, more than 20 years of kind of connecting with favorite TV shows and movies. Okay, so it's a good mood in that sense. It's a good mood in that I created it. So like just even having the deck as a physical thing after so many months of playing with these images is fantastic. I'm gonna show you a few, and please know that this is not available for purchase. It's not a public thing. This is strictly for my own personal use, and it does borrow from TV shows and movies. So I'm just gonna throw that out there and hope I don't get in trouble. I'll just show you just a couple of cards because I cannot help myself. This is the ultimate good mood deck, and this this is my ultimate Five of Swords. So I'm just gonna flip through real quick a couple of them. I'm not even gonna name names, name shows, anything like that. If you are a fan of this kind of stuff, you will recognize it. So I'm just gonna flip through a couple, because this deck for me represents all the good mood vibes. It represents everything that like makes me happy about watching those kind of shows, about being a sci-fi nerd who also loves tarot. So it's like my two favorite things wrapped up in one. So I had to include it, because otherwise I wouldn't be being honest with y'all, because this is my ultimate good mood deck. I guess if you really want to see the whole thing, you gotta join my membership, because I only shared it there. We're just gonna sneak it in here, and then we'll pretend I didn't do it, okay? You and me, we'll just pretend. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of a look at some of my good mood decks. Most of them are decks that like kind of like make me laugh, right? And they are, you know, funny decks, or decks that have a lot of humor, or we have decks that really connect to like something very personal for me that brings me that good mood, that really makes me happy. Or like we have, you know, certain kind of worlds that kind of make me happy type of thing. So yeah, it's been so much fun to check out all of the decks, to watch these videos. I don't remember if I said at the beginning of the video, it was by Maureen at Waves of Your Soul. I will definitely leave a link to the original video below. If you ever need a pick-me-up, search out the Good Moods deck tag, because it's a treasure, and it really does bring kind of a little bit of a bright spot to your day. So I want to thank Maureen so much for putting this out there for us. It was such a great idea, and I think it really does show that we can have fun with our tarot decks, and we can enjoy them from that place of just appreciating, you know, the humor or the uniqueness or the connection that we have to the decks, and how they kind of bring out that good mood in us. I think that's so fantastic. So as always, my friends, you'll find links for everything I've talked about here in the description box below. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.